welcome to the Diversify Inspiring Leaders podcast. Our guest today is Elena Costantini. Elena is an enterprise leader and advisor, currently serving as Senior Vice President at the Adecco Group, with more than 20 years of experience across legal, technology, talent, pharma, and professional services, including 2 Fortune 500 companies. She has led in complex global and multicultural environments, orchestrating commercial systems, leading strategic deals and partnerships, steering enterprise transformation and scale. Elena is recognized for building capabilities and functions that bridge solid business performance, people, and societal impact, creating results that endure. Leading with strategic clarity, commercial precision, and human empathy, Elena defines herself as a value architect, a leader who designs ecosystems where performance, culture, and purpose reinforce each other to create sustainable value. Originally from Italy, she is now based in Copenhagen. Her career reflects evolution and expansion, shaping organizations that perform, adapt, and thrive with both precision and purpose. Welcome, Elena, to the Diversify Inspiring Leaders podcast.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
You have led across big multinational corporations, across multi-million partnerships, technology, transformation, and global operations. And yet, when we talked about what you wanted to discuss today, you did propose something very simple. The word "and." Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
And is a small world. It might sound small, but to me, it has a meaning that goes beyond the world. And is the symbol of a bridge, is connecting apparent opposite side. And this bridge is where meaning and value is created. And if I think about everything meaningful that I've built in my career and in my life, it hasn't come by excluding one side over the other, but actually learning to navigate between apparent tension, going into the nuances and trying to connect worlds that are apparent in opposition. Especially today, we live in a world that forces polarization, often is about performance or empathy, logic or intuition, technology or humanity. But I strongly believe that the value lies in the nuances between the opposite. It's about finding a bridge, creating new meaning to connect different parties and building something new. So to me, "and" is really a symbolic word that means a bridge, a connection, an opportunity to create something new.
So where did this mindset come from? I mean, there must be something in your journey to becoming a leader that would lead you to this kind of understanding.
Yes, it's such a beautiful question. And I think for me, the mindset of navigating between ambiguity started very early in my journey, my personal life. If I think back when I was young, I studied law. I became a lawyer. So I made my master's degree in law, and I was very focused, very ambitious. I loved the logic, the deduction, the precision, but also the fairness that comes with it. But in parallel, I cultivated also what I consider a passion, music. So I've also studied at the conservatorium for 11 years. I and I finalized my master degree, my degree in music as well in parallel. And I didn't become a musician. I didn't really have a particular talent into that. And I'm sure that a few people will be happy of that choice. Um, but to me, it was important and part of who I am to be able to work with the law and with the music. Uh, if I think back, I think that law taught me how to think, the logic, and music taught me how to feel the emotion, the experience. And when I started my leadership journey, is exactly in that kind of continuity in those two sphere of the wholeness that I find the best value. Uh, and the more I have grown as a leader, the more I have learned to actually trying to bring these two parties together. There is no performance without innovation, and there is no innovation without solid performance. There is not just metric without the human side. There is no commercial return KPI without inclusion of the human side. So it's a bit of a balance between rigor and rhythm. And this is the nuance where I thrive, and I think that is the most meaningful spot to find new opportunity and to enlarge the spectrum of meaning, also for the business, but for the society, for the employees, for the entire ecosystem we live in.
I love that analogy with music and that you have actually studied that as well. So that sense of orchestration seems to be running through your career. So how does it show up in your leadership today?
Yes, actually, you are taking a word orchestration that I absolutely love, and I refer to a lot of time. And it reflects, I think, in all the role I had, from leading enterprise transformation, complex system, digital transformation, or commercial deal. Um, the orchestration part is what tunes in different meaning, different value. Is not about one over the other, but is about understanding, being curious, leaning in, and trying to connect the dot and find, to use the analogy of music, a new harmony where people can see the value and they can then opt in rather than be pushed in. And so orchestration is an analogy that I use a lot of time when you think about, for example, going to a music concert, right? Or a symphony, when the experience that we have there, when we exit, we say, oh, what a wonderful performance. And if we think about what stayed with us about the performance is not the single part, right? It's not the arcs, it's not the clarinet, it's not whatever part of the orchestra, but it's the harmony that brings it together, and a director that is able to capture the purpose of the music and bring it forward. And it's a bit the same in business, especially in a complex business when we need to balance often between the global synergy and the local flexibility, between solid performance, cost optimization, and innovation forward looking. Again, it's about tuning in different parts, trying to capture the purpose and the value and transform that into impact so that the receiver of our product, our services, which are the customer, the shareholders, the client, the employees, everyone can have this complete impactful experience.
I really love what you said about, when you listen to a concert, you don't hear individual instruments. You actually hear the music of everybody playing together. That's what creates the experience, really, right? And you're referring that to how you kind of want companies to run, so that actually everybody is part of a creation of a something that comes together as a whole. So that's a beautiful metaphor, and it connects to something you often speak about, inclusion. And
Yes.
that how does power and the power of and apply in this context of inclusion?
Yes. When I think about diversity and inclusion in particular, I think the end thinking, it's uh, it's a very powerful way of approaching inclusion. Diversity is a fact. We are diverse, right? We have multiple area of diversity that we all bring with us. Inclusion is an act. It implies advocacy. It requires that we
Yes.
take an active role. And often we confuse inclusion with sameness. We think sometimes that including means to put everything in the same mold. To me, inclusion is not sameness, is actually amplifying the spectrum, is the end, is inviting different voices, different background, different opinion, and the ability to hold that difference in one. And then I think this is where I think that leadership chip in, not as a place of permission, but as advocacy. Because in order to create inclusive environment, we need to establish the environment for that to work. It implies trust. And people, in order to trust, they need to feel safe. We need to be able as leader to hold different realities, different truth in one place and to be able to multiply the value that this different perspective creates. So inclusion is not a passive position, is a very active position, and is about, again, widening the lens, opening the road to something different, to different voice.
Right. So just amplifying what you said, diversity is a fact. Inclusion is a conscious choice and a conscious action. And that
Absolutely.
is incredibly important. And I wish more companies would actually take a more active stand in terms of inclusion, not just providing diversity in terms of hiring more women, for example, but also really actively including them. And as Diversify, we're bringing women into boardrooms and C-suites. That is something I feel, yes, you can have a woman on board, but then the question is, do you actually really let her be part of the team? Or is she just there to represent women, but without any real power, any real engagement? You're not bringing them really on board. And that is where the inclusion comes in, where the act of inclusion is so important, that it's not enough to have women, give them a title, but you actually have to give them an opportunity to succeed and really be part of the team, be it C-suite or be it boardroom. It's incredibly important. So thank you for talking about that.
Well, thank you for being active about that, Sylvia. It's extremely important because representation is not enough.
That's right.
As you said, right? We need to allow also different way of leading, but also welcoming different voices, not just adding a chair to the table,
That's
but
right.
actually allowing people to voice different perspective and to make room and create environment to multiply that, to create, again, to extract value from that. Otherwise, it becomes only a tick box exercise, which does not really translate into legacy of value, right? It stays as a short-term exercise.
Exactly. So you often talk about value ecosystems. So how does that play into the picture? What do you mean by that when you say value ecosystems?
Yeah, is a concept that I always refer to, extracting the value, but the value lives in the ecosystem. Um, is a place, the ecosystem, where we translate the transaction, when we move from transaction to relationship.
Mhm.
Uh, every exchange we have, every deal, every project, every initiative, as two levels of value. One that is visible, the metrics, the outcome, the KPI, the result, and one that often stay invisible is the trust, is the relationship, it's the meaning beyond the metric that we give to that exchange. And to me, value is exactly created in looking not only at the visible metrics, but also in the invisible side. Really being curious to understand what these exchange mean for the various party, and to create a common pool, a place where parties can see that they can pull in an additional value on top of the single part, and then amplify that. And that is where the ecosystem come into place, right? Because every exchange has always more meaning than the transaction in itself, but also more parties in it. If we think, for example, to a very simple exchange most of us have experienced in our life, which is an employee agreement, right? So the exchange of a salary versus a role is never about exchanging money versus time. That exchange has a meaning for the employer and there's a meaning for the employees. Staying in a role, fulfilling a job, taking an accountability might have different meaning for people in different part of their life as well. Some people might look for fulfillment, some other for growth, some to expand their knowledge, some they might look for stability, to provide for their family, and this meaning is not expressed in the exchange. It stays within the person, right? In the purpose that we put, in the meaning that we give to this exchange. So the curiosity and being open to that meaning means that if that meaning is expressed and the other party are willing to work toward that, then again, we create a common pool of value. That means that performance multiplies. That means that also the purpose, the impact that we create for people, for employees, for our colleagues, for the society, for organization, can find a common platform where we give legacy that goes way beyond the transaction in itself. So that's what I mean with value ecosystem, is really enlarging the spectrum beyond transaction and creating value and impact that stays beyond the exchange and can live after us.
So Diversify is a value ecosystem because it brings a lot together in terms of speakers and mentors and participants and you name it. But in companies, I don't see that much that conscious effort that you were just describing in terms of actually creating a value ecosystem beyond an employer-employee relationship. So which kind of companies have you seen actually having that kind of conscious creation of a value ecosystem?
I think, Silvia, that the value ecosystem to me is more a mindset than an industry. And
Yes,
it
yes.
can be reflected at company level, but also at function level, at project level, at initiative level. So it's really the willingness to look beyond the exchange into what we are delivering as a purpose. Let's take transformation or transformative initiative, for example. Of course, there is a strategy, there are hard metrics, there are targets. But the value and the value ecosystem cannot be limited to that, because eventually every initiative, every program, every company, and we can go ahead in the value chain, has a purpose. And to connect various parties to the purpose, it's how we create a value ecosystem. And it can be as simple as creating partnership with our client, with our supplier, with innovation hubs, with university. It can be as simple as really sharing, this is our purpose. How can we contribute together to translate that into impact? So in short, the ecosystem doesn't need to be always formalized. It's good if it is formalized because it's a platform that can, be utilized above. But it's a lot about mindset. It's a lot about inclusion. It's a lot about activation, because we are never solo. We are not island. We live in ecosystem. Also, we personally, as leaders and employee, as people, as in all the role that we have, we are always connected to our family, to our friends, to our colleagues, to our interest. So there is always an opportunity to use that connection to translate possibility into real impact.
Absolutely. So you make leadership sound like deeply human and disciplined. How do you stay grounded in complexity? I mean, when there's a lot going on, how do you stay grounded?
$1 million question. um, I stay grounded by really anchoring myself to my inner compass. And the inner compass is where I talk about personal purpose and values. And for me, it's integrity, it's care, it's grit. Integrity, it's the compass that I use to know what is right to do. Care keeps me anchored in the humanity side, in the human part, when business pushes for sometimes for a very performance-driven metric. Care keeps me close to the human side of part. And grit gives me the endurance to live in the complexity, to know that no matter what will happen, there is always something good to be created. Is a positive mindset that I bring with me. For me, challenges, I look at them always with a lens of opportunity to create something new or to overcome a roadblock by bringing new ideas, new capability, new opportunities. So that is where I anchor myself. And I think that when I anchor myself in my inner value, then I know that the world can shift around and things change. Technology, geopolitical situation. We live in a very complex world. And by being anchored in our purpose, I know that I will not lose myself, and I will always be grounded to my purpose and to the legacy I want to create.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful talking with you. Thank you for sharing your stories and your insights and your reflections about leadership and what you have learned. It's really wonderful to share that with a wider audience, part of the Diversify Inspiring Leaders podcast. And we look forward to engaging with you again soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Silvia, and all the best to this wonderful community.
Thank you.
Thank you.